Have you ever had your sister steal your fiance and then act like you were the one in the wrong? No? Neither have I, but Raven has. And somehow she became the problem. Hi and welcome. I'm Maria, and this is Stories and Strokes, where I spill all the fictional tea, review books, and do my makeup at the same time. Today, I'm gonna be doing a wedding makeup look. And today's victim is the first book in the Windsor series called The Wrong Bride by Catharina Maura. So grab your popcorn and let's get into it. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of this book review, I am gonna warn you, this is gonna contain spoilers. However, don't go yet because I am gonna give you an overview review of the book. So, The Wrong Bride was published December 2022. It has a 3.8 Goodreads rating. This is a billionaire romance, arranged marriage romance trope. It also has a dual point of view, and another trope that I think it's important to discuss and know that this book deals with is narcissistic family dynamics and messy family dynamics. And by messy, I mean literally no one communicates, no one puts up boundaries, and I want to fight everybody. This is a spicy romance book. I give it a 3.5 on Spice. I gave it an overall 4 stars out of 5, which is impressive considering I literally wanted to fight everybody and I wanted to throw my Kindle against the wall several times while reading this book. So it is a very impressive rating for me. Now, I am gonna say I rate by vibes. I'm not Shakespeare here to judge. You know what I mean? I'm rating by vibes. So this series follows the Windsor family. The Windsor family have arranged marriages. All of them are chosen by the matriarch, Grandma Anne. In this book, we have heiress Windsor who is set to marry. However, his bride doesn't show up. So Raven DuPont, who is a longtime family friend, is set to be the one to marry Eris. Now, she has to decide if this marriage is worth protecting, if she somehow can hold on to her career while everything else is falling apart around her. So the real question is, can this marriage survive or will it all come crashing down? I cannot concentrate on my highlighting while doing makeup and speaking. I cannot. So that is the spoiler-free review. This is your last warning. From here on now, you are gonna have spoilers. If you haven't read this book, go ahead, pause the video, go read the book, and then come back so that we can talk about it. But if you have read the book and you want to talk about it, hi, stay. This is a very messy book. So there's a lot I need to say about this book, all right? Because literally nothing was an accident. Everything was low-key planned and low-key manipulated. You know what I mean? As I said, we have Eris, who is the oldest grandson or the oldest son in the Windsor family. Eris and Hannah are set to get married maybe in a few weeks, in a few days. I don't remember the exact timeline. But they have been dating for the last 5 years, right? But Hannah decides the marriage is just way too restrictive and she has an acting career. This is just gonna F up her acting career. So she decides she doesn't want the marriage anymore and she gives back the ring and cancels the engagement. Or so she thought. Of course, because nothing is ever easy, and we love drama in books, not gonna lie. Grandma Anne finally goes like, yeah, I don't care. This wedding is still happening, just not with Hannah, and I'm never accepting Hannah again in this family. So like, even if you try to convince her, not gonna happen. She's not gonna be my granddaughter-in-law, you know what I mean? So I need to stop saying, you know what I mean. Damn. So then Raven is the one made to get married to Eris. There's a few notes that I have to say here because there is a part in this book when they finally tell her that she has to be the one to marry Eris, and she's like, her dad is actually and I have a whole conversation about the dad, which we're going to touch on later on. But the dad is basically like, they're going to take everything from us. We depend on this marriage for our company to be successful. And if our company is not successful, then your business is not going to be successful either, because they gave her money or something. I don't remember exactly what it is. And he's like, also, this burden was always yours to carry, because Ares and Raven were the intended marriage. I told you it's messy. I said that before. And she's like, if this was always my burden to carry, why did she have to get in the way? And she's completely right, because there's a lot of enabling going on in this book, but she is very, very right about that. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing. Also, the fact that they're just swapping sisters like nothing. I'm like, sir, is no one else concerned about this? Because this is just weird. It's hella weird. But, you know, it's a book. We gotta get dramatic. Obviously, she panics because, you know, Hannah and Ares have been in love for 5 years. How the hell is she gonna get married? Like, it doesn't make any sense in her head. We also found out during this chapter, maybe in the few next chapters, we find out how Hannah and Ares end up being together. And basically, Sierra's 21st birthday, and Sierra is Ares' younger sister, in her 21st, oh, am I okay? In her 21st birthday, Raven brings Hannah so that, you know, she can enjoy the party too. And just things happen, and Hannah and Ares end up getting together, which again, we will touch on later on, because there's a lot to have a conversation about that too. Now, moving on, we get to Ares' point of view. Now, in this point of view, you kind of get to understand a lot of things. One, Hannah and Ares, whatever his name is, however you pronounce his name, their relationship, it's literally a dumpster fire of toxicity. There's literally not another way to describe their relationship besides a toxic dumpster fire. That's literally all there is. There's nothing more to say about that relationship, not gonna lie. Also, it is a very shocking reveal that he is having sexy dreams about his sister-in-law, because he dreams about Raven while he's in a relationship with Hannah. And I'm like, that is disgusting, sir. Why are you dreaming sexy dreams? Sex dreams of someone who is your girlfriend's sister, younger sister. So like, no, don't play. We don't play like that in here. So that to me is a very disturbing situation. Like, it would be one thing, I mean, it's still not good, but it would be one thing if it's like their friendship, they've known each other, something like that. But like, it's your girlfriend's sister. It's just creepy. No, it's just creepy. To me, it's just creepy. Also, sir, you are engaged. Why are you dreaming about someone else? No. Now, we know from the beginning, since the beginning of the book, that Raven has been in love with Ares pretty much her entire life. And this is one of the reasons why she panics on, like, how am I gonna get into a relationship? How am I gonna marry Ares when he's been in love with my sister? Like, how is my heart gonna survive that? And I mean, she's right. Should have taken that into consideration, but you know. Also, talk about messy. Like, why are you just swapping things like they don't matter at all? It's just weird. But yeah, take a shot every time I say messy during this entire video, because you're gonna be here and you're gonna get drunk. Just saying. Now we go into the wedding. Mind you, during this time of like preparation for the wedding, Raven is still trying to communicate with Hannah, like, hey girly, like she said this to Hannah, like, hey, girly, they're gonna make me marry Ares if you don't come to the wedding. And Hannah's like, oh my god, they're not gonna hurt you, they love you, they love our family. And she's like, dude, I'm not taking a chance. Like, I'm gonna have to marry Ares if I want my business to grow. Like, this is not happening, you know what I mean? So she goes to Hannah. Hannah basically doesn't care. And yeah, it's just literally, she just doesn't care about it. And so We move on to the wedding day, and there's a few moments here that I think are important to note. While Raven is waiting for Hannah to show up, don't know why, but okay, whatever. While Raven is waiting for her to show up, the mom and Raven have a very kind of heartfelt conversation for a moment. And I think it's so important. Like when you look at it, I'm not going to say psychologically because I'm not a psychologist, but like when you look at it, it's such a manipulative way of having this conversation because she is basically like, I don't think she ever says she's actually sorry. And if she does, she clearly doesn't mean it. But she's like, yeah, I know, I know I've always put her first. Apparently Hannah was like a sick child when she was a child. And so, they just kind of enable her a lot more. I don't know why I said that so weird, but whatever. And so she's like, I'm so sorry. This is happening because of all my enabling and just letting her do whatever she wants to do. And I mean, she's right. She is definitely very, very culpable when it comes to Hannah's decisions and pretty much everything she does. But yeah, it's a very heartfelt moment. I was like, oh my God, we can see a little bit of the light. This is going to be good. This is going to be a great relationship. It was all a lie. It was all a freaking lie. It was just kind of a way for the mom to manipulate Raven into having this marriage so that she actually gets married and their Dream Sense company, which is a PR company, can actually have the benefits of marrying the Windsors while sacrificing her youngest daughter. That was a long-winded way of saying she effed up. She basically lied. Anyway, so that's one thing. Again, I think this is very telling of narcissistic dynamics, but we're going to touch on later on. Now, we also get to understand the rules of the marriage. So the first one is no more than 3 consecutive nights apart. You must always share a bed, and yeah. You must remain married for 3 years. If after the 3 years you feel like this is not a marriage that will work, then you can get divorced, though they've never had one. You have to be faithful to each other or lose everything, so all the inheritance, and give your marriage a chance, which, so romantic. Now, back to Raven and Eris's marriage. They basically agree to try, because, they've been friends for such a long time. They can try this marriage. They can just, give each other a chance, whatever. I have a lot of problems with this, but almost immediately, Eris is like, we can put up a front in front of Grandma and we don't actually have to try being married and whatnot. And Raven is like, yeah, no, you're mine, so that's not gonna happen. And then he also says that he doesn't know where he stands with Hannah. Sir, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't know where you stand with somebody that left you at the altar? What do you mean that you don't know where you stand with someone that chose literally anything but you? What do you mean you don't know where you stand with someone who quite clearly has chosen everything but you? And you made someone else sacrifice for her. Sir? Are we talking about the same situation here? What do you mean you don't know where you stand? I hated that. That was a moment where I was like, yeah, red flag. You stand nowhere with this girl. Your family, her family, everybody around Raven sacrificed her to the devil, basically, at this point. Everybody sacrificed her for their own interests. And she is the only one thinking about everyone else, which it's also another thing that we have to talk on later on. Anyway, when Hannah finally finds out that they actually got married, she panics, she goes into their house. Now, this is another thing, and this is where I say they literally never put up boundaries, is the fact that they basically keep absolutely no boundaries with Hannah, because why does she have access to enter the home, to literally be anywhere, to have any opinion about anything? Like, no. But anyway, so she panics. She goes into the apartment. There's basically a lot of things said, but one of the things she says is like, oh, I would be jealous if it was anybody else, but it's you, so I'm not. Like, girl, I hate this girl with my entire heart. This is the person that I wanted to fight the entire book, the entire time. Anyway, and then she asks Eris to go out to dinner with her. And during the dinner, he says yes, by the way, which should have been the first thing. He'd been like, no, I'm married. We cannot go anywhere. And so, especially because it was a condition previously discussed, but whatever. And then when they go to the dinner, you have this girl, because I have other words, but they're going to be censored. You have this girl basically saying, yeah, you know what? I can be the other woman. Nobody has to know. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm married. This is not happening. So granted, he did put up a boundary there, but like bare minimum, dude. Literally bare minimum. You shouldn't even have been at that dinner date with your sister-in-law. So, that's one. There is a chapter where I literally cry every time I read it, because I've also reread this book like, I don't know, 50 times by now. But there is a part where Raven basically breaks down. Everything is going wrong. She just feels like, she's wasting time with her. It's not wasting time, but like wasting his time, because he's still in love with Hannah. And so she feels like she's not good enough to be with him. And then things happen at her work where she doesn't feel good enough. Then her mom calls her, and her mom is like, you need to call your sister and be a good sister and support and comfort her. And she's like, this is all of this is of her own making, by the way. But okay. And she's like, why is she not comforting me when she was the one that made me do this? Basically, she ends up breaking down even more. She goes to take a shower. She breaks down. She feels like she's not loved, like she's not good enough. Like everybody's choosing Hannah or someone else before they choose her, even when she is the ones that they're supposed to be choosing. AKA, Eris puts up no freaking boundaries with Hannah at all. And I hate that. Anyway. And this is where, to me, you can clearly tell the narcissistic family dynamics, the golden child favoritism type thing, and also where this vicious cycle of enabling and narcissism and all of these things just kind of go around and round. So you have Hannah playing the victim, the mom enables her, the dad excuses everything, Eris avoids choosing, and doesn't do anything to stop it. Raven shrinks herself while still trying to be the bigger person and people please everybody. So now, as their relationship develops, as Eris and Raven's relationship develops, we get to see them getting a little bit closer. However, Hannah is still involved in a lot of things, and not necessarily involved, but like she appears like a fairy godmother, a curse of a fairy godmother type of thing. You know what I mean? Now, Raven does finally put her in her place very nicely, very subtly, very subtle. So I don't think it actually sticks. I don't think it does anything to actually make that much of a difference, but it does happen. So that's great. So we also get to see some different developments in this relationship. We get to see them be like, oh, we want to decorate the house and get new rings and everything, because Raven is like, everything in here is Hannah's. None of this is Eris. None of this is a couple. None of this is my home. It just feels like I'm staying in Hannah's room, just bigger. Also, to me, is very telling that there's a part, I think it's this chapter still, there's a part where they go to get rings, and Eris is like, this dude is such an imbecile, but he's like, I think it's in his thoughts. He never actually says this out loud, but he's like, I felt dread when Hannah was choosing the rings, but with Raven, he's actually excited. And like, dude, if you don't understand that is a red flag before you get married, and if you don't understand that you never were actually in love with this girl after all of this, you just gotta be stupid. Like, how is anybody gonna give you a business? No. Now, they finally make the relationship public because Grandma Anne gave them, I believe, like a month. something like that, for them to get acquainted. And because they go public, they post a picture of them kissing in their wedding day. And of course, there comes the curse. She appears and she's like, "Oh my god, why did you have to make it so real? This is so effed up. I cannot believe you did this. Raven, you're such a bad sister." And she calls her names actually, but whatever. And Raven is like, "Girl, we didn't have a choice. Like, what do you want me to do?" It's so stupid. And it's still the thing, like, why does she still have access to anything? Why is she still able to get into the house? Why haven't the security guards been like, Hannah DuPont is here. Do you want her here? Or should I, like, make her leave? Which they should have, but whatever. Finally, after a few other things, but finally, Eris confesses that he is in love with Raven, and she's stealing a little part of his heart. Whatever. But even with all of this, even with all the quote unquote reinsurance he does for her, he still doesn't put up a real boundary and doesn't keep a real boundary with Hannah. Hannah is still trying to contact him. Hannah is still basically trying to, find a way to get in. It's just, dude, how hard is it to put up a boundary with somebody that left you behind when you have a wife? Literally not hard at all. And if you find it hard, girl or boy, dude, go find a therapist. And he's like, there's also another thing that is very noticeable to me throughout this entire thing, is that he always asks Raven what he should do. And he does it in kind of jokey ways. And she tends to answer in hypotheticals. And so, boy, you're 36. What do you mean, what should I do? He's like, what should I do about Hannah? And Raven is like, what if I tell you I don't want you to speak with her again? And he's like, oh, I will do that any second if you want me to. I don't have to ask you. This should be a given. Like, why is this even a question? It should be a given that you shouldn't have conversations, communication with your ex when she's clearly still trying to be with you. Even if she's not trying, you shouldn't have relationships with your coworkers, exes. Am I okay? Now, we get to a very interesting chapter. I've been on my eyes for like 25 minutes, but whatever. We get to a very interesting chapter here, which is Arthur's birthday. Arthur is Hannah's and Raven's dad. Now, listen, this is a point in time where I swear to you, I didn't throw my Kindle against the wall simply because I wasn't going to waste my like $100 that I spent on my Kindle, but I was this close, literally this close to doing that. So I hope you appreciate my strength. So we go there. The first thing the mom does is be like, oh my God, Eris and Hannah. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so used to saying their names together. When I tell you I learned how to breathe throughout this entire book, I mean it. It is so messy, but she does that, and whatever. And then she goes like, oh my God, I prepared Raven's room and a guest room for you, Eris. And Eris was like, why am I staying in a guest room? This is my wife. And she's like, oh, I just thought it would be awkward and uncomfortable. And he's like, why would it be awkward for me to stay in the house of the person who left me at the altar? Bitch. Now, I think this is the party where Raven actually understands that, okay, yeah, there's a lot of narcissism happening here in this family. So, there's something good-ish coming out of it. So that's one thing. But, there's an attempt. And then we also, before they get into the house, before everything happens, This is just so effed up. But there is a part where like she is hesitating to go in, and Ares is like, we don't have to stay here if you don't want this. And she's like, but family means everything to you. And Ares is like, yeah, because I mean everything to my family. And I'm like, oh, talk about hard hitting, damn. But I think it's at this point where she finally realizes that her mom, or Hannah, is a narcissist. Her mom is an enabler. Her dad is useless. But if she actually done anything about it, the book would have ended. So, of course not. Also, there's a weird thing that I really personally don't like, and I find it disgusting every time I think about it. And it's the fact that, they're staying over at the house, whatever. They're sleeping in the same bed, blah, blah, blah. And there's a point where she's like super, like she gets quiet and awkward, and Eris is like, what's happening? Are you okay? And she's like, well, I used to hear you and Hannah going at it because, walls are thin. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me distract you by having schmunchy panchy times with you. And I'm like, can we not read a freaking room? It's like, where is your emotional intelligence? It's at -100. Like, you cannot be this daft to not understand the fact that, she's having an emotional conversation with you, and the only thing you can think about is distracting her by having sexy times. No. No. Anyway, we think things are getting better, her marriage is going strong, they're growing together, everything is going great. It is, in fact, not. Hannah comes back. Full force. She literally comes back. And guess how she comes back? Just guess. I'm gonna give you a second. She comes back pregnant. Pregnant. Listen, this was predictable. For me, this was so predictable, like 3,000 miles away. I have no idea how long that is, but like, you know what I mean? Like, from east to coast in the United States, I was able to see that coming. And the audacity this girl had still had me shook. What do you mean you're pregnant? Anyway, she comes back pregnant, and it's a whole freaking mess again. So she comes back pregnant, and she's like, now my baby, this is my place, and I don't like how this is decorated, so we have to change it. And I'm like, you got it. You got to be kidding me. Anyway, Grandma Anne gets involved, and she's like, yeah, well, she's carrying the Windsor blood family, whatever. So we have to protect her. She has to stay here. This is not something that can get out to the media. It's going to be a mess if it does, blah, blah, blah. So basically, this entire time, Raven is just like, I'm finally having my happiness. Why did I say that so weird? I'm finally being happy with who I am, what I'm doing, my marriage, where it's going great, and then boom, there's a bomb dropped on her. But anyway, Hannah keeps provoking Raven and acting like she is the victim, which, by the way, she is in fact not. So yeah, it's a whole mess. Hannah really tries to get like in between them and just kind of, be the other woman, basically. I don't really know how to describe this whole situation. It's just very, very, very effed up. She also kind of threatens her, telling her, like, you need to let go of this idea of you being happy with Ares because we're having a kid, blah, blah, blah. And it's just very messy. She faints. She pretends to faint. There's just a lot of things that happen here that there's a lot of this that would have been avoided if someone put up a boundary at the beginning of the book. I don't know. There's also kind of a little thread here that Hannah gives Raven, like, you're gonna have to deal with the consequences if you don't let me go back to Eris and I being together. Like, basically, divorce him or something's gonna happen to you. It's just very effed up, but whatever, that's one thing. We also get a very big shock and discovery why Eris has Raven's dreams, sexy dreams about Raven. And it turns out that at Sierra's birthday, Eris and Raven actually got together having sexy times, right? And in the morning, Raven went back to her room to like clean up and be, cute. But then when Eris woke up, he was in bed naked with Hannah. And so he was like, yeah, this is never going to happen with Raven. I got with her sister. I have to take responsibility for Hannah. And I'm like, boy, what? But okay, whatever. So finally they realize it's actually a dream, it's actually a thing. He basically tells Hannah that she has to leave the house, blah, blah, blah. And Raven asks Hannah, like, why did you do this? Like, why? And she's like, I wanted Eris to look at me like he looked at you. So basically, I wanted him and nobody else could have him, which, whatever. Now, because of this, Hannah decides to involve the media. And when I tell you it's a mess, I mean it is a mess. Because she basically makes Raven out to be the other woman. This is basically not just the other woman, but also matriarchal rules and arranged marriages, and this is bad, blah, 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 kind of thing. And so, it is, I guess the word, it is a mess. Now, Raven, during this entire, it's like a week of mess, and Raven decides to, take a break. There's just very overwhelming for her. And that was a lot of blush. That's fine. She decides to take a break and she goes to Alana and Silas's house. Now, Alana and Silas they do have their own book. So that is a very nice Easter egg drop here. So they do have their own book. It's very nice. I actually kind of prefer Silas over Aris, but saying that. And there's just a lot. This is the time where she thinks, if she wants not if she wants the relationship, because she decided to fight for this relationship quite a bit ago, but it's like her time to decide if she can stand Hannah being in the way pretty much for the rest of their marriage, because they are gonna have a kid. So that is one thing. We're just gonna be super glowy bright today. That's fine. Now, I do have to say, I think that Eris didn't do enough. Maybe this is just me being super mean, but I don't feel like he did enough from the beginning, and so now I judge him very, very hard. But he could have done so much more to protect his marriage with Raven instead of still thinking about Hannah when Hannah never put him first, And so he does try to disperse the rumors that are going on social media and just everybody bashing Raven. But it's just never really enough. And he goes public and he's like, the marriage was actually meant to be between Hannah and me because we were closer in age. However, I never felt the spark. I've always been in love with Raven. So it's, she's not the second woman. She was always the woman I was meant to marry, blah, blah, blah. So finally something's dispersed, but it's just not enough. You could have prevented this. You could have a long time ago prevented this entire thing, but whatever. Now, at long last, he finally goes to confront Hannah. So he goes to her new apartment, which is basically an apartment he got for her because he didn't want Raven to be uncomfortable in her own home. And I think this is very there is a lot of satisfaction for me when it comes to this scene specifically, because he finally basically asks if the baby is his, and she hesitates before she says yes. And he's like, when the doctor got to the house, I had tests done, paternity tests done. I know this is not my kid. Tell me you're shocked. Tell me anyone is shocked about this, because I'm definitely not. I could see that from a mile away too. So, no, I wasn't shocked at all. So he does tell her, like, before he actually reveals that he made a paternity test, he's like, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to apologize to Raven for everything you put her through. And if you don't, you are gonna have to be the one to deal with the consequences. And she's super smug about it too. She's like, why am I apologizing? I haven't done anything wrong. Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, girl, who are you talking to? Like, girl, you do understand that I'm a billionaire. Like, I am hella powerful, right? Like, we get that. So anyway, he does reveal, that he made the test. The kid is clearly not his. And I do eyeliner at the same time as I speak. And she's like, oh my God, She just tries to, like, deflect her guilt, but whatever. We also get to, because of this basically revenge on Hannah, we basically get to understand how she became such a popular actress. And it's the fact that she basically slept her way to the top. She was cheating on Ares the entire relationship pretty much, even though he was the one getting her the films and whatnot. And so, fun times. Very, very fun times. We discover that he basically is like, if you don't apologize to Raven, this is all gonna be, if you don't apologize to Raven, you're gonna deal with the consequences. She's like, I'm not gonna apologize to Raven. What the hell have I done wrong? And he's like, bet. So he basically publishes everything, and she gets canceled. She gets it's not disbarred. What is the word? Basically, she's on a blacklist that no one is gonna be able to work with her, because if they do, they're gonna have the Windsors as a enemy. So basically her career is done, And we clearly see not how many people, but that she has slept with so many directors and producers and everybody to basically get the spot she's at right now. So, that's great. I don't know if it's a day later, a few days later, but Raven's mom comes knocking on her door and being like, why are you not protecting your sister? How am I supposed to leave a PR company to you when you clearly cannot handle an emergency? Blah, 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 blah. There's just so many things she says that I'm like, whatever. And Raven is like, why would I defend her when it was my husband that published all of this? And the mom is like, shocked. The mom is shocked, actually shocked. But she's like, you're not a good woman. You're not a good daughter. You're not like that half the woman your sister is or whatever. And she's like, I'm not going to leave my shares of Dream Sense to you if you cannot handle this. And she's like, and Raven is like, okay, go give them to Hannah. See if your company can survive. And I'm like, oh, final, girl, final. The mom is such an enabler that I am disgusted by this mom. I'm not gonna lie. Like, your daughter, Raven also asks her, what you did when I was basically in the same position as Hannah. And she's like, well, I knew your husband was gonna handle it, blah, blah, blah. And Raven is like, I was in danger. Like, I know Dad at least tried to hire Scylla's security, but you did nothing. And she's like, well, you're okay now, aren't you? Like, girl, that is your daughter. Your daughter was she had an imminent threat to her life. What do you mean she's okay now? Now, this book was incredibly entertaining for me. Well, this is not my favorite in the series. It is the book that I've reread the most. It's packed with a lot of angst, messy relationships, but what really stuck with me, I think, are the themes it explores, especially when it comes to the narcissism, the enabling, the manipulation, the people pleasing, and pretty much the emotional damage caused when no one ever steps up and sets boundaries. So many of the problems in this book could have been avoided if literally anyone, especially Raven, would have put up a boundary, grown a spine. Raven could have protected herself a lot sooner. Eris could have shut things down a lot sooner. The parents could have stopped this entire thing a long time ago. You know what I mean? Hannah should have been completely cut off from the beginning without anyone having to tell Eris what to do, because he is a 36-year-old dude. You're responsible. You have a whole $1 billion company. You are completely responsible for what happened. However, no one does put up boundaries, which is why everything happened the way it did. And everything basically is messy and spirals into chaos. Now, let's talk about the DuPont parents, because do I have a lot to say? These are my least favorite characters and my least favorite parents in any book I've read ever. The mom is just her blatant favoritism to Hannah, her blatant narcissistic, I want to say tendencies without having actually diagnosing someone with narcissistic personality disorder, I think it's what it's called. I don't know. But with all of this, everything they do for Hannah without giving anything back to Raven is just exhausting to watch, especially from the mom. However, the dad is a classic enabler, and we cannot forget about him, because I feel like he is excused quite a lot during this book, because, oh, he loves me, but he loves you quietly. He never actually stands up for you. He never actually does anything to protect Raven. He never does anything that is gonna benefit Raven, because he's gonna lose the mom or Hannah. He just is always very quiet. He's like, oh, I love you, your mom loves you, but like, you never actually show that you love Raven. The mom never actually shows that she loves Raven quite clearly, especially at the end. And above everything else, if you actually loved someone, you would protect him, but he never does. The only time he does is when he tries to get Scylla security to protect Raven. But even then, that is literally the bare minimum you can do as a parent. So he is an enabler as well, but he enables the mom, that the mom enables Hannah. So it's a whole cycle. Eris isn't a villain necessarily. He's not an anti-hero, but he is the most flawed character, I think, in this book. He basically asks Raven to sacrifice her life and her heart and what she wants for a relationship, for a marriage where he puts no effort into. And I don't mean the effort of, getting flowers and the emotional side of things. Some parts are in that marriage. However, he's still thinking about Hannah. While he's married to Raven, he's still thinking about Hannah. He's still thinking about where he stands with her. He's still not putting boundaries, not stopping communication. He doesn't do anything because he's like, oh, she's sending me messages, but I'm not answering. Okay, then block her. Cut her off. You don't have to ask Raven about what you should do when you are 10 years older than her. Let's start there. But also, you were the one left behind in the altar. Why are you asking the person that had to sacrifice their life for you what to do? No, it just doesn't make any sense. He does the bare minimum to protect Raven and the marriage. He has no boundaries and honestly not real consequences at all during this entire thing. And there's a lot of emotional access given to Hannah, especially from Eris's side. So it's just far too much. And Raven, as much as I love her, as much as there's parts of her, especially her insecurity, there's a lot of that I understand. However, she is the definition of a people pleaser, and she keeps shrinking herself, cutting pieces of herself to put in a fire so that everybody else can keep warm while she's bleeding out. You know what I mean? It's just no. She mistakes her silence for strength and peacekeeping for love, which is just the biggest mistake she can do, and literally the reason why so many things keep happening in this book and such messiness just keeps happening in her life. And this is just a pattern that keeps repeating itself and itself and itself all the time. So this is one of the reasons why I think this book is not just a romance book to me. I think is a case study, a something that you have to kind of really tinker with, or something that you kind of have to understand on a deeper level or research more, especially the narcissistic tendencies that tend to happen here, the enabling and the golden child symptoms, I guess you would say, or tendencies that the parents have, and that pretty much everything or everyone around Raven, and everyone I mean Raven, by everyone I mean Eris and the parents, but it's just something that you can understand a lot of manipulation that happens throughout the book. There is a lot of refusing to set boundaries and expectations and failing to meet the bare minimum altogether. This is a very exhausting, emotionally very exhausting book, especially if you have people pleasing tendencies as well, or if you have narcissistic family tendencies. If you are not the golden child in your family, you might get very connected to this book, but it's deeply irritating. I literally wanted to fight everybody, and I said this before, but like, I wanted to fight Hannah every time she came. I was gonna say on screen, every time she came in a chapter, I was like, just let her die. Just, I literally cannot stand this girl. Just let her be, whatever, just go away. So all of this, and somehow this is still the book that I've reread the most out of the entire series. I've read the entire series already, and I have to I've reread it. I read it, I think, in 2022 or 2023, and since then I've reread it like, I don't know, 50 times, and I've had to reread it for this whole review like 2 times. So somehow it is the book that I've reread the most. So I think that should tell you all of it in itself. So I hope you liked this book review. If you like this format, let me know. Also, let me know in the comments if you agree with me or not about this book and the characters and, you know, everything that's happening. But yeah, this is it for today's Stories and Strokes. If you like chaotic book reviews with makeup and feelings and just a lot of rants and a lot of conversations, then please subscribe and stick around for next week's video, which is going to be the second book in the Windsor series.